15 Things You Didn't Know About Pepsi. Welcome to Alux.com, the place where future billionaires come to get inspired. Hello Aluxers, and welcome back to another amazing video. Today we're finding out about an iconic brand and Coca-Cola's greatest rival, Pepsi. Introduced in 1893 as Brad's Drink, Pepsi didn't become Pepsi until 1898. It was created in North Carolina by drugstore owner Caleb Bradham, so its origins were similarly medicinal to Coca-Cola's. The formula contains a digestive enzyme called pepsin and cola nuts, hence the name, and it was marketed as a tonic to treat indigestion and boost energy. After the Great Depression, the Pepsi brand changed hands a few times before and was even offered to Coca-Cola. Because Alux.com is dedicated to becoming the world's best resource on the world's most famous brands, we had to dig deeper into arguably one of the world's most famous. Here are 15 things you didn't know about Pepsi. Number 1. Pepsi were one of few brands to market to Black Americans during segregation. Walter Mack was the president of Pepsi Cola throughout the 1940s, an era when Black Americans were segregated from white Americans in nearly every sphere of life. Mack noticed that most brands would only use offensive, stereotypical images of Black people in their advertising, so he decided to buck the trend and access an untapped market. Pepsi had an all-Black sales and advertising team for a period and would run advertisements featuring African American models and actors. Number 2. Actress Joan Crawford contributed to Pepsi's advertising efforts. Joan Crawford, better known for being one of the biggest Hollywood stars in the world in the Golden Age, boosted Pepsi's sales considerably. She married Alfred Steele in 1955, the then president of Pepsi Cola, and began to feature in their advertisements. She also made sure that Pepsi bottles would appear in frame in many of her films. Number 3. The Pepsi Challenge, which claimed to beat Coca-Cola, is technically very flawed. Pepsi created their Sip Test campaign in 1975, running it for many years in an attempt to prove that Pepsi tastes better than Coca-Cola. However, a 2005 book by Malcolm Gladwell delved further into the campaign and discovered that tasters will always prefer the sweeter drink on a first sip, regardless of whether they would actually prefer it over the course of a whole can. Number 4. Pepsi could have been bought by Coca-Cola on 3 occasions, but they always turned the brand down. Coca-Cola have been offered the purchase of Pepsi 3 times, but have never taken it up. The offers were made between 1922 and 1933, and no one really knows why Coca-Cola didn't buy their competitor out. Maybe they like having a horse to race against. Number 5. Pepsi saved themselves from bankruptcy by doubling the size of their bottles. Pepsi struggled during the Great Depression and the war years because they couldn't afford the high price of sugar. The only way they managed to save themselves was to offer their customers much more than they bargained for. A clever radio campaign introduced 12-ounce bottles for the same price as 6.5-ounce bottles, and people rushed out to buy this significantly better deal. Pepsi doubled their profits and escaped bankruptcy. Number 6. You can buy Pepsi ice cream in Russia and Pepsi strawberry milk in Japan. Like many other brands, Pepsi have embraced cultural diversity and created many different flavors to accommodate many different tastes. In Italy, for example, you can buy a mojito-flavored Pepsi. Australia has mango and tamarind Pepsi, and Thailand has a hot cinnamon flavor. The country with the most variations is Japan, where you can drink both spicy ginger and sweet bean Pepsi if you so desire. Number 7. 3 people have tried to sell Coca-Cola's secret formula to Pepsi. 3 people in the United States wrote to Pepsi Co, claiming they have the very detailed and confidential information about Coca-Cola's secret formula. Rather than try to get the information from them, Pepsi Co reported it to both Coca-Cola themselves and the FBI. The FBI started to pursue the case, posing as Pepsi and offering the 3 scammers manila envelopes of money for their secrets. If you want to see how Coca-Cola and Pepsi compare, check out our video about the 15 things you didn't know about Coca-Cola. Number 8. Sofia Vergara got her first acting job in a Pepsi commercial. Many huge names have featured in Pepsi campaigns, including Beyoncé and One Direction, but Sofia Vergara owes Pepsi her very first commercial. Vergara appeared in a South American Pepsi ad when she was 17, and it made her a famous face across the continent. Now she's much more famous across several continents. She's still the spokesperson for Diet Pepsi and has continued her partnership with the brand for many years. Number 9. Pepsi owns 1,000 patents, including one for a tennis racket. Like many major corporations, Pepsi patents any kind of design or invention that might be useful to them. Some of their most sensible include a bottle fragrance and interactive vending machines, but some totally defy logic. Pepsi owns the patent for a golf club and even a reinforced tennis racket. This suggests the brand may have had plans to expand into sporting goods, but it obviously didn't work out. Number 10. Pepsi was the first American product to be sold in the Soviet Union. Coca-Cola isn't sold in North Korea or Cuba to this day, but Pepsi had a warm welcome into the USSR. Nikita Khrushchev was invited by Richard Nixon to try the drink in a 1959 trade exhibition, and he liked it. He signed a deal with Pepsi, and the drinks entered shops throughout the USSR by 1972, something other American brands couldn't have dreamed of. Number 11. They have changed their logo 11 times over the last 122 years. Pepsi's branding has evolved considerably over the years, and its most recent guise came complete with a 27-page design handbook. Previously, Pepsi was called Pepsi Cola, but the cola was dropped in the 1960s. There have been 11 rebrands throughout the drink's history, and that probably isn't the last of them. Number 12. Pepsi is known as Pepsi in Argentina because the name is consistently mispronounced. As Argentine Spanish accent doesn't lend itself well to pronouncing Pepsi, so the brand decided to rebrand and accommodate this in 2009. This is apparently the first time that a company has changed its name specifically to fit with a country's pronunciation. The change increased sales in Argentina, so they rolled it out into Mexico too. Number 13. The "Come Alive with Pepsi" slogan has a sinister translation in Chinese. When Pepsi's 1980s branding was translated into Chinese, they found out that their slogan sounded quite different. "Come Alive with Pepsi" translated into "Pepsi brings your ancestors back from the grave." The company has never confirmed it themselves, but if it's true, they definitely caught it in time. Number 14. There are 8 teaspoons of sugar in a regular can of Pepsi. It's easy to ignore the fact that our favorite drinks are absolutely loaded with sugar, and Pepsi is no different. Every can contains 8 teaspoons of sugar, which is the equivalent of 32 grams. In 2016, Pepsi announced that they would reduce the calorie content in 60% of their drinks by 2025. This is in response to declining numbers of soda drinkers in the United States. Number 15. Pepsi spent $660 million on advertising in the US alone. Celebrity endorsements do not come cheap, as Pepsi's advertising budget proves. Pepsi's total worldwide advertising spend is $2.3 billion, and it's been steadily increasing every year. In contrast, and forever attempting to outdo all of their competitors, Coca-Cola spent $3.499 billion. This made them the largest advertiser in the worldwide beverage industry. It's easy to pitch Coca-Cola and Pepsi against each other, but PepsiCo's annual revenue of $66 billion is not to be sniffed at. The iconic drink has very similar origins to Coca-Cola. They were both developed to be medicinal, and they both responded to market demands and transformed themselves into a soft drink, and they're still huge brands today. Do you think Pepsi has struggled to compete with Coca-Cola, or do you think that Pepsi's rightful place is king of the drinks industry, regardless of what the numbers say? Oh, you're still here? Well, here's another fact about Pepsi. The brand's efforts to be more inclusive of African Americans attracted a serious backlash from the Ku Klux Klan. The right-wing supremacist group sent many of the company directors threats and actually made the brand drop their equal advertising policy. Thank you for spending some time with us, Aluxer. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. If you want more, we handpicked these videos you might enjoy, or head over to Alux.com for the best in fine living content on the planet. Be a part of the largest community of luxury enthusiasts in the world and tell your story.